All right, welcome back, everybody, to another edition of Dollar Bin Digging. This is the video series that I do for comicbookinvest.com, where I do an article as well as this little accompanying video where I'm talking about those books that you should be keeping an eye out for when you're digging in those cheap boxes, those dollar bins, those flea markets, those LCSs that have the cheap boxes out front. Wherever you find your cheap comics, this is the stuff that I think you should just be keeping an eye out for while you're digging. I've been doing this nearly 3 years now, so there's a ton of books I've talked about. I'm trying not to duplicate and cover books that I've already discussed, so I'm just kind of going off of topics and coming up with ideas that I think are things that I'm looking for. This is the kind of stuff that I'm digging for. So last week, I kind of mentioned how I fell down a little bit of a rabbit hole thinking through Armor Wars and Riri and Winter Guard. So I kind of focused in on Crimson Dynamo quite a bit and the Winter Guard. This week, I'm going to do a little bit different and kind of shift back to some of the Armor Wars stuff that led me to that spot. But before we get to that, if you like the content that I'm doing, please like, subscribe, hit the alert button so you don't miss anything. Make sure you tell your friends to subscribe to the channel. We're getting so close to 1,000. And once I hit 1,000, I have a huge giveaway of books that it's been growing over these last, couple of months of things I've just been adding to it. And it's going to be a great prize. And I'm sure you all want to have a shot at it. So let's get to 1,000 so I can give that thing away before summer's out. Hopefully. Now, that being said, just hang on for one more second, and I will be right back with the books. All right, so as I kind of teased there in the opening and explained how I got here, last week I was thinking through Riri Williams, and then it led me to Armor Wars and all that stuff, and I just kind of ended up on Winter Guard somehow last week. Winter Guard and Crimson Dynamo. But before I got there, I was thinking through a lot of Armor Wars. Now, a lot of possibilities. I don't know what the show is definitely going to be about. Who's going to be in it? Are we going to get a Justin Hammer? Possibly. I got to imagine that Rhodey is going to be the star of this show, at least to a point. I mean, War Machine, Iron Patriot, whatever name he's going to go by, he has to be involved. But for it to be Armor Wars, we have to have some other armor, right? So maybe a Titanium Man. Maybe Riri shows up. Maybe somebody falls back in the Ironmonger armor. I don't know where we're going to go with this. But I definitely think Riri is a play here. I think she has to tie in somehow. This maybe some development that she has brings her to light and it kicks off this whole thing. I don't know. I just feel like we know she's getting a series all her own as well. How could they not tie in? And I've also heard rumors that we might actually get her sooner than we think. Maybe she's going to get a little appearance or tease in, Black Panther 2, Wakanda Forever. That also makes a lot of sense, at least to me. I mean, we know when we left the first Black Panther at the end that they were setting up a school in Oakland and they were going to be teaching kids science. And you got to imagine a lot of these kids are probably going to be smart. They're going to end up at this school. And Riri is one of the smarter characters in the Marvel universe. Maybe we get Moon Girl in here as well. I don't know. Just thinking things through. But Riri has a strong possibility of just being a little Easter egg, maybe even just a little tease, a little cameo of she's just a member of this school that Shuri is kind of in charge of, and that's how we get introduced to her. She probably won't have a role in Black Panther 2, but maybe that's just how she gets introduced to the larger universe, or maybe it ties back. Maybe we're getting Armor Wars first. Maybe we're getting her Ironheart show first. I don't know the timing of everything, but I definitely think she is going to be an important character running through the Disney Plus shows, at least a few of the shows, going forward. Just what I'm thinking. I mean, they've already cast somebody, so they don't cast somebody this far ahead unless they have significant plans for the character. Otherwise, why bother? You can just pick up anybody off the street. It's going to be just a little tiny cameo. Just saying. Now, Armor Wars. What can we look at here? Without talking about specific books, I figured, you know what? Things you still find flipping through those boxes, and I just kind of wanted to recap and run through them a little bit, are the actual Armor Wars comics. Like, why not look at the actual Armor Wars comics, right? I mean, it just seems to make a whole heck of a lot of sense to me that they might draw a little bit from it because we don't know what else they're going to do. I mean, I'm not going to tell you to go, you're going to find a first, Riri Williams in a dollar box. I mean, that's most likely not going to happen. So the things you might still find in that box are things that tie to this potential show, like the comics that they could base it off of. And we're looking at Iron Man 225, which kicks off that first, crossover, I guess, or event. It was kind of a minor event. Back then, Marvel used to run their own like little events just in the title itself. It was like the issues would just build upon each other. It was just better storytelling, really. It didn't have to be a whole separate series. Didn't have to buy 10 different separate miniseries and ongoings to support that series. But bias aside, I like this old stuff. So Iron Man 225 is something that kicks off the first Armor Wars. Now, to be fair, when it started, it was Stark Wars. But we don't have Tony Stark anymore. I mean, he's gone. So they can't call it Stark Wars. And that's also taking a huge piece out of all of these Armor Wars stories and not having Tony Stark around anymore, unless we get AI Tony. And, I already talked about that a couple of times, actually, I think now. But Stark Wars is actually what it was called. So they're not going to call it that. So that is why we're just kind of focusing in on being Armor Wars, because that's what you kind of have to go with. And yes, even this book, 225, it's gotten a little pricey of late, so you might not be able to find this in a dollar bin any longer. There's a lot of people been scooping it up. It does have that red and silver, the Mark, I forget what Mark 2, Mark 4, Mark 8, whatever number of his armor it is. The red and silver is what I think of it. It's the red and silver Iron Man. But outside of the regular issue, there also is a Hasbro version that you can find. So this is the kind of thing that I love digging and pulling out of dollar boxes. These toys, these not for resales, these things that come in comic packs. These are things that I love finding in those boxes, even if they're not in the greatest of shape. I still grab them because, I don't know, I just think it's fun. So keep an eye out for this Hasbro version of this book because it could be out there in a box. And it originally came included with this, Greatest Battles comic pack, the Silver Centurion armor against the Mandarin. So definitely kind of cool. Definitely kind of cool. So something you just want to, like I said, keep an eye out for. You might find that Hasbro comic out there in a box. So just good information to have. But we're going back 225. Then you can go through. There's a couple other issues in this series that it ran for, I don't know, half a dozen, maybe even 12. I forget how long it ran for. But 225 is a good one. 229 is also another one which actually features the death of a character that I'm hoping we actually see show up in this Armor Wars type show. And his first appearance was way back. I think it was like a Tales of Suspense or something. So it's not something I could cover here. So I couldn't cover his first appearance. But in issue 229 of Iron Man, this is where we get actually the death of Titanium Man. So maybe that's something we get on this show. Something to know, something to pay attention to. Titanium Man was also another one of those Iron Man villains that I always just remember as a kid, just because it was, you had Crimson Dino, it was big red armor, and he had the big green armor, Titanium Man. Now, next in that run, issue 231 is also kind of significant in a sense that we got a new Iron Man armor out of this one. Who is the new Iron Man? It really wasn't actually a new character playing. It's not like this isn't when Rhodey took over or anything. I believe this is just when he kind of went more with the remote control armor in the comics. So this way he can be, hey, look, I'm Tony Stark, and hey, we have a new Iron Man because look, I'm over here, so I can't be him, right? So this is the new Iron Man in this issue. Yeah, minor footnote. I do remember this armor. I used to like it as a kid. I used to like drawing this one with just the way the boots and the wristbands went with the double rings that were connected by the one strip. I don't know. I just remember it fondly. So this is one I look back to as one of my favorite Iron Man armors back in the day. But this was 231. And then I think the final issue, or it's not even really part of the storyline, is more of an epilogue. So you had 225, and now we're running up to 232. I'm sorry. 232 is the epilogue for this story, for the Stark Wars, or Armor Wars, as we like to call it these days. But this was, again, that wrap-up piece to kind of just close out that first storyline. So another one you just want to keep an eye out for, the epilogue of it. Yeah, it's Armor Wars, after all. Rebranded Armor Wars. So that's one option for you. That first run of series. A few books. Again, 225 to 232. Just keep an eye out for it. Just flipping through the numbers. Maybe you find them. Scoop them up if you do. But as you know, or you may not know, there was a sequel. Not too much later, issue 258, we get Armor Wars 2 running through Iron Man. Now, this was also another fun series that led into a lot of other great stuff, more Mandarin stuff, some Fin Fang Foom stuff followed immediately after this Armor Wars 2 run. I dig it. 263, a few issues later, you get the Living Laser. Awesome character. Look at that cover. It kind of pops at you with the Living Laser. Again, another character that goes pretty far back in a very early Avengers story. I forget the number of it, but first Living Laser is, again, not a book you're going to find at a dollar bin. So I couldn't go covering a lot of these characters' first appearances, but that's not to say we're going to get a Living Laser showing up on screen. I think it's too close to Electro. Might be too hard to to explain and show on screen. So that's not something I'm expecting to see, but still, 263 is still a cool issue and a cover that I do enjoy, and I grab if I find it for cheap. And then, this issue runs only through 266. So 258 to 266, that's what, like 8 issues you're getting through Armor Wars 2. But 266 is the finale of this storyline. So again, just one to keep an eye out for. So if you're digging in those boxes, you can get Armor Wars 2 pretty cheap. You can get all 8 issues probably for $1. And then under $10, you got the whole run, and you can just read it and enjoy it and just have them just in case. And I think that's all they really did outside of Secret Wars. Secret Wars, when we got Battle World and we got all those weird minis, there was another Armor Wars. They're not doing this, obviously, right now. This gets a little too wonky, timey-wimey, wibbly-wobbly, considering it, again, it was part of Battle World, where just nothing really made sense. It was just everything hodgepodge thrown together. So, as you can see, Armor Wars 1 here, this is just craziness. Definite craziness. It looks like it's Iron Man 2020 is mixed in there. You got all these futuristic armors. You got a guy in, you look here, issue 2. That looks like Steel. Looks like they did an Iron Man that looks just like Steel from the Superman books from back in the 90s. Yeah, not too original, but I think it was kind of a, wink and a nod and a intentional, obvious thing to do. Like, hey, we're just going to throw any character we can think of in armor in this weird world and pit them against each other. So issue 2 is another kind of dig the cover, though. It's kind of cool when you look at it. And I like the added spikes to his hammer instead of the one John Henry Irons has over in DC. But that's a pretty cool one. The whole thing ran 5 issues. I'm not going to show you all 5, but I'm going to show you the next one, issue 3. I kind of dig this cover. Just something about it. It just, I don't know. It looks like a tombstone. I guess this is a digital futuristic tombstone. I always like a good cemetery scene like this. I don't know. Just kind of poignant, I guess, in a way. But another thing that you could find, now this next bit isn't a dollar bin pick because I actually just came across it while researching this. I was like, all right, maybe you find it a dollar bin, maybe not, but it's still pretty cheap if you go looking online or in the boxes. And that is the actual variant for that book, that issue 3. I dig this. I don't know, something about it. I like it. This is a 1 in 10, just a 1 in 10 incentive. So it's not a huge high incentive, but there's not a ton of them out there. But the ones that are out there are still pretty cheap. So I actually bought this for myself just because I thought it was cool. It's got a nice wraparound cover. It's just a landscape kind of scene. I forget who actually did the cover art on this, but I can add it in post. But just as a cool image, I dig it. I don't know, just something about it. Just I thought was really cool. I like a good cityscape like this. So for a few bucks, I just scoop one up just for myself. Hey, maybe you find it a dollar bin. It's only a 1 in 10 after all, and a lot of that Secret Wars stuff is kind of like overstock and not that desired at the moment. But who knows? All bets are off if we actually get a Secret Wars, something down the line. Just something to be aware of. So that being said, that's all I got for you on my little Armor Wars tangent that I went on. And hopefully you find some of this stuff interesting. Again, I would just keep an eye out for these because they're just fun books to have and just to read, going back to those old classic Marvel stories. But again, this isn't based on anything that I know or any information that I have. It's all just pure what-if speculation that is running through my head. So that's what I got for you this week. Thank you for stopping by. Hopefully you enjoyed that. Let me know what you think in the comments. Make some suggestions. Tell me if you found any of these books or you think any of these, ideas I have make sense. But I really do think we're getting Riri probably pretty soon, and I can see her tying in a lot of things in the Disney Plus and movies going forward. In a way, this little subsection, Armor Wars, possible Winter Guard. She's getting her own series. Who knows? Black Panther as well. I really feel like we're getting a little cameo on Black Panther. That's just something I'm thinking of. But anyway, I'm sure other people have came up with that idea as well. I'm not saying that I am founding this idea. It's just something that makes sense. And I think a whole lot of people probably think it makes a lot of sense. So we will see, right? We will see. So that being said, hopefully you're enjoying the content. Tell your friends. Let's get that subscriber count to continue to grow. And I will see you guys next time.